happy to introduce you to my new guest today. He's actually a really good friend. He's also my financial advisor and a client, and somebody who is super inspiring, and I think you're going to enjoy what we talk about today and go away really inspired to go out and change the world in some way. So Mike Reilly is here. Welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me, Linda.
It's kind of funny because we talk a lot together socially and in business. But I'll introduce you. So you're a financial advisor with Freedom 55. You're also a father of 6. There's a long list here. He is a volunteer with Junior Achievement. He's the president of the West Shore Chamber of Commerce here in Victoria, British Columbia. And you can hear him on a local radio station called CFAX, where he talks about monthly updates in business on the West Shore. And he's also a member of the Rotary Club and on the board of 100 Men Who Care in Victoria, which is another amazing organization, and also on the board of Advocacy, which I'll let you explain about. And then you do a lot of fundraising and personal stuff, rowing, yoga, running. I don't know, the list goes on.
I train with your husband in karate.
Yes, karate, and then teenagers, wrangling them. So I know I've talked a lot. I mean, I just want you to talk about, but I want people to know, like, this is a person who does a lot in the community and in his personal life as well. So I'm really interested to learn about how you fit it all together and all about you. So let us know about you and your business and
Sure. Well,
what your life looks like.
Well, thank you for having me, Linda. I'm exhausted after that introduction. I don't know where I find the time.
Yeah.
So in answer to your first question, so in my practice, I'm an advisor with Freedom 55, which is a division of Canada Life. But I hold licenses across a number of companies. So you could consider me being a broker in providing financial advice. It's a business that I'm really passionate about, and it's a one-person operation here in the West Shore, and I have a suite of clients, and I focus on the family market. I really enjoy helping, especially young families, design financial flight plans that get them to their destination despite life's turbulence. And what that means is helping people understand that they have opportunities to grow their wealth, and they have risks that they're going to face, and what are the steps that we can take in place to optimize their growth and to minimize their risk. Because you're just like you wouldn't get onto an airplane if it didn't have airbags and oxygen masks and seatbelts. Many people design their own financial plan that only focuses on return of investment and doesn't consider what happens if someone doesn't come home, becomes sick or injured, if a child becomes sick or injured, and all those financial impacts that are there. So just helping people understand what they need to put in place to be a proper, full functioning adult in a financial world, and then helping them as things change over time.
Which is already very complicated, and which actually drew me to you to become our financial advisor, because you do explain things really well, and I love the analogy of the flight plan, and I think that makes it more real for people and actually simple to understand, so that they can reach their goals in a logical way, which I think you're really great at communicating that, and especially to women in particular. I think the financial world can be, to a layperson, kind of man or woman, I should say, but it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I think I like the way you explain things, and you don't make people feel uncomfortable or like they don't know anything.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, and I think it's in many ways we've done a disservice to girls and women in the assumption that it is something that may be beyond their capacity or even their interest. And so I make it a point in my practice that I won't work with a couple unless not only is the female spouse at the table, but also engaged, because at some point it may be just her that I'm dealing with. And
that's true,
the last thing I would want is for the first time that we're meeting is the first time we're filling out a death certificate because her husband has died.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that, but that makes a lot of sense, and it's another benefit to have you as their financial advisor. So, getting back to where you began, so what inspired you to follow a career as a financial advisor?
So it was something that I came to a little later in life. It was not in my plan from the beginning, and I've known a number of other advisors over the years who this is maybe their second or third career after they've done something else professionally. But when I think about it, growing up, the only time that I ever heard my parents talk about money was to fight about it. That my dad always thought that there was more than enough money, and my mom always thought there wasn't enough money.
Right.
And both of them are wrong. It's really somewhere in the middle, but it depends on where your priorities were.
Yeah.
So for me, growing up, money was always seen as a source of conflict. And I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I didn't focus on money. You know, those old adages that money is the root of all evil, or money can't buy you happiness. Those are also not true.
Yes.
But because of that, in my first marriage, my ex-wife and I, we had different attitudes towards money, as every couple does.
Yeah.
But because I saw it as that source of conflict, I didn't want to. We'd never brought it up. So the things that we should have put in place in order to move forward in a healthy manner, we didn't, and bills would be ignored or debt would be ignored, and eventually, any problem like that you don't focus on becomes worse. And it was one of the reasons why eventually we ended up divorcing.
Yeah, yeah. I think money is definitely a cause for a lot of breakups and arguments and stuff like that. And I certainly heard that phrase, money doesn't grow on trees. So we all would come up in life with these mindsets around money. And I'm thankful that we were actually able to work with a person like yourself, my husband and I, to, manage our mindsets and come to a middle ground.
Yeah.
And then now being able to have you as our financial advisor and to sort of guide us in the right direction, and so that we avoid those conflicts. So I think it's really important. Do you see yourself also as a money coach, or do you help couples or families kind of as a mentor, or not a mentor, but a coach in that regard?
It depends on what you consider as a coach. I know some very good coaches that focus on budgeting or increasing your income. That's not an area that I do dwell in. Generally, it's what I like to see people do, and whether it's a single person or couples, is let's take a certain amount every month that you don't need. That if it's $25 or $500, whatever that amount is, that we can take right off the top, that we know isn't going to impact on your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And see where that can be allocated for better purposes. What I find is that there's sort of two types of people. There's person A, who spends what they earn with the intent of saving whatever's left over at the end of the month, with all good intentions, but life being the way that it is, rarely is there anything left over at the end of the month. And then there's person B, who decides to take 10% right off the top, or pay themselves first is another common expression. And then they spend the difference. And they're the people who tend to have more control. They're the ones that get to retire early or go on trips, or they're the ones that are not in that same financial distress. So that's where I tend to focus. I find that budgeting is about as successful as dieting. Because if people see it as being restrictive, not that it's not a good thing to do, and you should be responsible with money, but if diets, if people say, well, I can't do this because I'm on a diet, or I can't spend this because I'm on a budget, then they begin to resent that decision, and then by extension me, and then you get cheating, and then the whole thing blows up, and then the story is, well, we tried working with a financial advisor, but it didn't work for us.
Yeah, and then instead of looking at as money as a tool, or focusing more on the abundance versus the lack, then it does restrict you in your life.
Sure.
So yeah, I can totally see that.
If we can take the emotion away from it, and I liked your use of a tool. If you have a skill saw in the garage, there's no emotion tied with that. It's a tool that's going to be used for a certain purpose. But you're not going to use it to hang a picture. And and money is the same. It has specific tools, and within that, specific instruments that you can use your money for that do different things. It's, a lot of times someone will say, well, a tax-free savings account, they don't make a lot of money. Well, the tax-free savings account is just a specific type of tax structure. It's the investment inside that does or doesn't perform well. But so I really love having those conversations with people because it's so many misconceptions.
Yeah. Well, I know that you love what you do and you're really good at it.
Thank you.
And you're very patient and helpful and knowledgeable and an expert at what you do. And I know that this is just one facet of your life because you, as we've listed before, all the many things that you get involved with. Before we get into that, though, I want to know kind of in your daily life, juggling all these different things, running your business, dealing with clients and volunteering and all that stuff. Like, can you describe what some of your biggest challenges or obstacles that you've had on your journey so far?
Sure. And I think if you ask my wife, she would say the same thing. It's really being able to allocate my time to the thing that provides the most benefit at that time. I'm very fortunate in having my own business that I can move my time around and devote to different things. But I always have to be aware of, is what I'm doing now going to move the needle for whether it's the business that needs the attention or the volunteer activity that needs the attention, and that something else isn't suffering at the same time. So I don't think I could ever really put 10 hours a day into the business or 10 hours a day into Advocacy or Rotary. So for me, doing a little bit here and there, but I guess the biggest challenge is just managing my calendar so that the right thing gets the right attention at the right time.
Well, it seems like you do a great job at it. I don't know. I don't think I can do as much as you.
As long as it seems like that, Linda, then its appearances is all that matters.
Okay, and then I guess to end things off about what you do, like what's your favorite part of the day, I guess, in your work?
It's really the only thing I've ever done that you really feel that connection with someone that you've helped. When I get a text from the new mom and it just says, we had the baby, and there's a picture, and she's exhausted, lying there in the bed with the baby all wrapped up, and the husband pops his head in from the other side because he's been up for 18 hours, and they wanted me to know that the new baby had arrived because I'm that important to taking care of their family because their needs are going to change. I know they don't send that to their accountant or their lawyer, and no slight against lawyers and accountants, but this connection. Or as terrible as it sounds, when I deliver a death benefit check to a widow who gets to stay in her house when she thought that she may have to move with the unexpected death of her husband. Those are very powerful moments to connect with people. Everybody brings casseroles and flowers, but I come with a check, and it makes a huge difference.
And that's making a huge impact in their lives, and I can see that it brings you a lot of joy and satisfaction in that you are helping people. You are genuinely helping people. And that's not where it stops, though. We have all these other things that you do. So we talked about some of the things that you volunteer for, and I can't even begin to know how you do it all, but so you volunteer for Junior Achievement. You're president of the West Shore Chamber, which I'm also a member.
Yes, you are.
Member of the Rotary Club, on the board of 100 Men Who Care, Victoria, and on the board of Advocacy. Can you talk a little bit about what you do for all these different things, just briefly, and then how you feel you're making an impact in the world?
Well, let's start with Junior Achievement because it's the closest to at least my profession. I became involved with Junior Achievement about 4 years ago through the chamber. We had a presentation, and they were looking for business volunteers in the schools, and that seemed like a great opportunity to give back. And of course, I always think that there could be a potential benefit to the business because you might need a teacher who needs a financial advisor, or the kids go home and tell their parents about having worked with me, and there's an opportunity to share. But Junior Achievement, it provides really it may be the only time that a kid ever has experience with financial literacy, because it's not part of the school curriculum.
Right.
So in middle school and high school, there's a number of different programs that are delivered, and they range from a business of our own, where kids learn about entrepreneurship and starting a business, and we have a little pop-up sale in a mall in the hall. There's Dollars with Cents, which is a program that teaches the basics about money management. I'm doing a program right now called Personal Finance in high school, which is a 6-part program that I deliver over 3 different classes on the basics of budgeting, credit, cash flow, what happens when you move out of your parents' house. And
Yeah. Oh, wow. That
and
sounds amazing. I wish I had that in high school.
I do too, because
Yeah, I think it's a real hold
Yeah.
because, that's part of the stress of being an adult now. Is, like we talked about earlier, money is a source of a lot of stress and anxiety.
definitely.
So,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's too bad that there isn't more of a focus on financial literacy in schools, so that kids had a better grounding of it. But what's great is that the programs are all pre-packaged. It's almost foolproof, that the materials are there. So if you're not comfortable in front of a group, or you think that you don't know anything, the materials are there to help support. And then what they really want is the business volunteers to just tell stories about their own experience, and that's what really resonates with the kids. Last week, one of the things we were talking about, investment growth, because as well, this particular class is doing an investment program where they have virtual $100,000 that they've been investing over the past few weeks. But we were also talking about building personal wealth, and I said that that you could read all of the business books that you want, and whether that's 30 different ways to get rich or 100 different ways to get rich. There's really only 4 that I know of. And you can either be born into money, you can marry money, you can win the lottery, or you can spend less than you earn, save regularly, invest often, and be patient. And the kids are furiously writing down, marry money and win the lottery. They're a lot more fun than the 4th.
That's true.
So I would encourage anyone who's maybe you haven't done anything in the community, and you're looking for a volunteer opportunity. Junior Achievement is a great place to start, because it's not a huge commitment, makes a great deal of difference, and it really is fun.
Well, I'd be happy to chat or do a talk or something. I don't know if that ever comes up. I've done that with other school organizations, just talking about my business and how it might be relevant. I don't know.
I'll connect you to the Junior Achievement folks here. We'll get you out in the schools.
Awesome. Okay, and then we've got the you're president of the West Shore Chamber, and I know
Yes.
that's a big part of your volunteer work. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you do?
Sure. So the Chamber of Commerce is, as the name implies, a Chamber of Commerce. It's an association of business owners, and they can be solopreneurs like you and me, all the way to large corporations with hundreds of employees like Costco.
Right.
And we represent the business interests of businesses in the West Shore. Now, that doesn't mean that the business has to exist only in the West Shore, or that the owner lives in the West Shore. But if you live, work, do business, or if your clients live in the West Shore, we think, why wouldn't you want to be a member of an association that speaks for business? When you look at talking and lobbying with local levels of government, individuals only have 1 vote, but as a member of an association, you have a much larger voice through a Chamber of Commerce. We coordinate and cooperate and collaborate with the other chambers, like the Victoria Chamber, the Sault Chamber, the Esquimalt Chamber, and the Sandwich Peninsula Chamber, which makes for a very healthy environment.
And you also kind of advocate, I guess, with the local governments and stuff like that, to do with business and practices and stuff like that.
Absolutely, we can lend our voices to, here in the West Shore, the number 1 issue with business owners is traffic, which is the number 1 issue for most people in the community, is how do we get to downtown or from downtown.
Yeah.
If So when we add our voice to that, when Mayor of Langford or the minister or our local MLAs want to know, well, here's another opportunity for the chamber to speak up and say we need to have this situation improved in order to grow the economy.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work. So that must be rewarding too at the same time, because you're part of that whole process.
Very much.
Yeah.
And it's through the chamber that I met you, and we became friends. And in a lot of cases, the chamber members become very good friends. That our social, our mixers they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely an added benefit, and I'm so grateful to you and Karen for being such a huge champion of my work, and mostly, our friends, our good friends. Now, the Rotary Club is very special because I think it's something that, when people think of changemakers, they think of, advocating for the environment or children or, and so this kind of delves more into that world in terms of the bigger picture, maybe. So I know the Rotary Club of the West Shore does a lot of things in the community, but it also reaches outside of the community. Maybe you could talk about that and how you're involved in it.
So the Rotary International has two mandates: to do good work at home and good work abroad. So there's always two projects that are underway. Recently, our local chapter finished raising $250,000 for a new children's playground at the stadium, which was in memory of Constable Sarah Beckett, the local RCMP officer who'd been killed in the line of duty. That was easily the biggest project that we had ever done. And I can't say enough about how the community came together and the leadership that our Rotary board had. I played a small role in it, in being able to solicit for funds. And at the same time, we sponsor an orphanage in Haiti.
Right, yeah.
And helping them become self-sufficient. So part of the mandates are that they have to have an end time to them, that they can't be perpetual. So helping that orphanage become more self-sufficient, we raise money to build a kitchen so that they can bake and sell their bread. They raise chickens, they can sell the eggs. And that helps them be self-sufficient. Right now, there's been an uprising in Haiti, and thankfully, the orphanage is less impacted by it because they're outside of Port-au-Prince, but because they're more self-sufficient, they're not reliant on someone to deliver food to them, which is not coming in many cases.
So there is change happening, even if it's in small increments. It's still making a difference in their lives. So that's really inspiring.
Yeah. And change, some people say, well, change begins at home. Great. Well, Rotary can do that. Well, I want to have a bigger impact. Great. Rotary can do that too.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's amazing what we do with a small amount of funds. I can't believe how we can stretch the budgets on things. It's not like every meeting I have to open up my wallet and peel out another $100.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's what stops a lot of people. So if they understand that it's really doesn't take much to make a difference, and that's one of my taglines. I keep saying it in every episode, but it's really no matter how small, just make a difference no matter how small. And the important thing is that you're passionate about it and you're behind whatever it is that you're supporting. And you feel good at the end of the day, because at the end of our lives, another thing, why I'm doing the show is because I want to inspire people to not just get up, go to work, come home, eat, and go to bed. Right? Yeah. Do something so that you're going to feel good at the end of the day, and have a full life to look back on that you can be proud of, basically.
And those are only two examples. There's a number of other programs. So your contribution can be as small as reading a book at lunch hour to a child in a school once a month.
Right.
If that's all that you have time for or can contribute, or as big as a huge fundraising campaign and traveling the globe.
Exactly, yeah. Now, I know that you've answered this question on other podcasts. Michael has been on several different shows, but it's an important question because I think that's what people want to know. Is like, why do you feel it's important to make an impact or a positive difference in the world? Or why is it important for you to be of service personally? Like, is there a story? Because I think those are the stories that inspire people. We know, obviously, it feels good to make it like we just talked about, but is there something more that inspires you?
I wish I had something that was more significant. That that I had a tale of having overcome some obstacle.
Yeah.
But it really is relatively mundane. I'm very fortunate to have been born into the family that I was in, had the opportunities that I've had growing up. All of my limbs work and everything is fine, and I'm surrounded by friends and people who love me. So
Yeah.
it's not like there's something significant in my past, but I know that giving back, it has been rewarding. And coming back to one of your earlier questions about challenges, saying no has also been a challenge, because
It's hard to say no.
yeah, I don't, for some reason I am very enthusiastic about all of the fun things and new ideas, and
Yeah.
so that's something I've had to learn to say no to sometimes, even though it means that I won't have an opportunity. I can continue to devote time and energy to the things that I've already committed to.
Right.
But I think, and in all honesty, many of the things that I'm involved in, I am aware that there are great opportunities to meet new people who could become clients and help grow my business. I won't ignore that fact and think that it's entirely for the good of others. But those same opportunities, if we can grow a healthier economy and healthier families and wealthier families here, then we all are better off.
Well, exactly. And you touched on something too, because I think some people will, oh, well, you're doing it for selfish reasons. But there is that argument, well, the people that can make the most difference need the resources to do it. And so the more successful you are as a business owner, the more you have to give of yourself, of your resources, of your money, of your time. And I think that's, perfectly acceptable to, want to grow your business. So, because, it sounds to me like, and I'm trying to get to, because I know for me, I love animals. And I remember there was a moment in my life that I was completely moved, and I knew that I had to do something for animals. And that was kind of the inciting incident, if you want to say,
Sure.
that has led me down the path that I've been on my whole life, and has led me here and beyond. So was there a pivotal moment, do you think, or was it just kind of like, I don't know, the endorphins or whatever, like maybe it just inspired you to keep going? I don't know.
I think it's more incremental than having been a seminal moment that the light switched on. But I remember years ago, one of my mentors had said that if you're successful, or the more successful you are, the greater difference that you can make in the world. If you're, and with no slight against people who volunteer in small ways, but look at Bill and Melinda Gates. If they had not had the wealth that they have through Microsoft, then the Gates Foundation would not be able to do billions of dollars of work around the globe. So it's and keeping with the flight theme, the aviation theme, when you're on an airplane and they give you the safety talk, and they talk about it in the event of a depressurization in the cabin, the oxygen mask will drop down. Don't they always say that if you're traveling with someone else who needs assistance, put your own mask on first before you help them?
Exactly.
So because if you're passed out, you're no good to anybody else. So if you really want to make a difference in the world, take care of your own health, your own finances, your own mental state, before you go and look at somebody else.
Well, and the same goes for parenting, because I know that, as a mother, if I don't look after myself, I can't look after my child. So
Moms are terrible for this, always putting themselves last.
Exactly.
Like, I don't have time to have a shower. Yes, you have time to go and have a shower and then do the other things, or eat your meal and go do the other things.
Exactly. No, I'm
Everybody
trying to
will
get
be
better at that, actually. So would you, I mean, if you were talking to somebody and they're like, I just don't feel very fulfilled, or there's something, I just want to do something that's going to make me feel like I'm contributing something, or like, is there any advice you would give to people who want to make a difference, say they believe, I talk to a lot of people and they're like, I love elephants, or I love, this part of the world and it's having problems or whatever. I mean, it could be anything really, but they have reservations, or they think they're, I'm only one person, or they, people make up excuses for not doing something. Like, is there any advice you can give to, or inspirational quotes or anything that might inspire people to just do one thing, no matter how small?
Well, I think you've said it very well yourself, Linda. It's just do one thing. I've often heard that if you're feeling badly about your situation, find somebody to help, because there's always somebody worse off than you, and the act of being selfless can be very fulfilling for you and gets you out of whatever that situation is. I know before we began talking, you asked me if there was an inspirational quote, and I said it just depends on the day. There's all kinds of great inspirational quotes. But one of the things that I'm quite moved by is the idea that from Buddhism, that the universe doesn't care about you. And I'm paraphrasing.
Oh, okay.
Which sounds, on the surface is kind of bleak, that the universe doesn't care about you. But when you think about it, it's really liberating, because so often we're consumed with thoughts of, why me? Why didn't that work out for me? Or nothing ever goes my way? Or I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too this or that. That sense of lack, behind that is that idea that somebody screwed me on this, and that there's some sense of justice and balance in the universe, which just isn't true.
Yeah.
And once you realize that, you're no longer hooked into that idea that something's going to thwart me, no matter how much farther I get on this. So if you can realize that you're just another human being on the face of the earth, and there's no agenda, there's no bias, it just is.
And you just are.
Yeah. Then you go, oh, great. No, nobody's working against me. Nobody's working on my behalf. There's no luck one way or another. Then I can start to move forward and say, well, okay, I'll take responsibility for all of my actions and all of my decisions, and then I can choose to help or not.
Well, exactly. And it's like what do people say? You're not responsible for what people think of you.
No.
So that's I think part of that too. Is that it's kind of like, okay, well, I can just be myself, and I can just be responsible for what I do. And if people don't like me, then that's not it's okay.
Yeah. And you know that from your own practice. You're a very effective salesperson, because it's just, you give people information about, this is the process that you use. This is what the expectations are from the photography that you're going to have, and this is the price for the various packages. They do whatever they want with it.
Exactly.
There's you don't need to trick somebody into buying something or move them from one thing to another. And it's letting go, having no attachment. And I'll even say that in a meeting with a client, as we'll sit down and I know their guard's up in many cases if this is the first time. And I'll just like, I have no attachment to whether we do or don't do business, which is, it's not like I don't care, but you're going to make your own decisions. I'm going to give you some information. You're going to tell me what you want to accomplish. And I'll say, well, here's 3 different ways you could do it. These are the different paths this will take, and I think one might be better than another, but let's talk about it. And if you want it, if you'd like to take action on it, I can help you. If you don't, it's entirely up to you.
Exactly, yeah. So we still have a few more things to talk about with your volunteer work, because I think this is really important for my viewers to know that it is possible to do more than one thing. And actually, I know that you find enjoyment in all these things, so it's not like a chore, it's not work, it's part of your life. And so we haven't talked about 100 Men Who Care Victoria, and I know this one is a really important one for you, because it was actually started as 100 Women Who Care, actually from a girl I know in Ontario. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, you are a member of 100 Men Who Care, so tell us about that.
So we had a group of local businessmen who we would get together once a month for a businessman's lunch, and we decided that we should be doing something more than just having a drink and BSing about work with one another. And we wanted to give back. And one Christmas we had a snooker tournament that raised money for Santa's Anonymous, and decided we should do that more regularly or something more formal. And one of the fellows looked around to see what would be a good structure for us to do, where we didn't have to put that much time in, we didn't have to be that responsible, it was going to be fun, and it would make a difference. So
Right.
of those four qualities, the 100 men or women structure worked really well. And you're right, it was not our idea, and there are multiple chapters across North America.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there was a 100 women group already in Victoria, so we
Yeah.
didn't feel like we were stepping on anybody's toes by starting a 100 men group. And that was last August, so 2018, that we formally.
Okay, so you were one of the founding members then.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
And it's a great thing for and anyone that wants to get involved in a 100 women or 100 men group. It's a great organization. You get together 4 times a year. You arrive with a check for $100 or $100 in cash, or as the treasurer of our local chapter, you email me a $100
Yeah.
e-transfer. And we have 3 charities that are nominated, and the nominee gets 3 minutes to pitch on behalf of the charity.
Right.
And then at the end of that round, we all vote.
Right.
And
Okay.
whoever gets the most votes wins all the money from the night. So if there's 100 guys, that's $10,000.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's a really great way of doing it, because it's a nominal amount, but when you get, 100 men who care,
Yeah.
or 100 women who care, yeah, that's amazing. So is it mostly local charities? I
They all
guess to
have to be
the
local.
city, yeah.
They have to be non-denominational, non-affiliated, and not. We want the money to stay here, so it's not like it's a headquarters in Vancouver or in Ottawa that somebody's going to have.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's good.
Victoria Hospice was our most recent winner.
Yeah.
The Pacific Center for the Family was a past winner. Bridges for Women, and the Extreme Outreach organization, which helps underprivileged kids go to summer camp.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
and so it's usually at a fun location, and we have a beer sponsor and a food sponsor. So it's a night out at like the little Audi dealership was our last host, so
Oh,
we
yeah.
got to hang out with all the cool shiny cars.
So doesn't it sound fun to give and make a difference?
Yeah, and the
So-
100 Women has over 300 women, so it's a
Yeah.
very healthy
Yeah.
organization.
Well, my challenge to myself now is to do as much as you're doing.
Yeah, well, between you and Mike, because Mike
Yeah.
was one of the original members of the organization
Yeah.
as well.
That's my husband, Mike.
Everybody needs a Mike.
Yeah, I know. There's mics everywhere. And then the last thing well, not the last thing, but the other thing you are involved with, and it's more to do with your work, but Advocacy, you're on the board, and so
Yep.
that's really important, because you're elevating people in your industry, you're helping to elevate.
Yep. So Advocacy is the Professional Association of Financial Advisors.
Yeah.
So the parallel would be if you were a lawyer, you belong to the Bar Association, or if a doctor, you belong to the College of Physicians and Surgeons. So we continue to promote financial advising as a profession. We are looking to actually regulate and protect the titles of financial advisor and financial planner. And it may surprise your viewers to know that it is not regulated. Well, as an individual who provides financial advice, if you want to sell insurance or investment products, you have to be licensed. But that's just licensing for the purposes of selling. So it'd be like
Right.
if a doctor was licensed through the pharmaceutical industry, and they had no training or no college to oversee what they were doing, but they were selling drugs to their
Right,
patients.
yeah. That
So
would be scary.
yeah, so that we're trying to move towards that, so that we're making sure that if you're working with a financial advisor, that they are sanctioned by the organization, and that they are truly giving advice that's in the best interest of the client and not tied into whatever the
Yeah.
tool of the industry is.
they're getting good advice and valid advice. That's pretty important. So we've talked a lot about business and volunteering, and we talked about our business philosophy, our selling and sales and everything. And I know you're a good friend, but you're also a client. And so we've done a couple of shoots together. We've done your family photos, and we've also done your business portraits. So I'd love to hear from you, and I think my viewers would want to know too, like what your experience was like working with me, and what inspired you to actually hire me in the first place, I guess.
Sure. And you know better than anyone that there's lots of photographers out there, and anybody with a camera might fancy themselves.
There's a lot of good photographers nowadays. Yeah.
And so when I knew it was something that I needed to, when it was time for me to renew my branding portraits, and I'd happened to meet you at a chamber event, and I thought that there was a connection, and like so much of business, it's the relationship that is that's important. And I liked your philosophy and your attitude towards it. And I looked on your website, and I saw that what you were doing was more than just a head in a frame.
Right.
That it really captured the personality of the individual. That there was something, whether it was the spark or the fun or the emotion that came through. And I wanted that for my photos, so that when people looked at it, it would resonate with them.
Right. Yeah. They would see Mike Reilly.
Yeah. So if you were able to bring that out, because it's tough. It's a very awkward thing to be natural as soon as and not be a weirdo when the camera comes out.
Well, exactly, yeah. And, to be honest, most people don't like having their picture taken. So it is a bit, it can be intimidating, I think.
Well,
for
and you know how
people.
shy I am, so.
Well, thankfully you were very natural in front of the camera, but, I mean, even you kind of felt a little bit, I knew that anyway, but.
You were prepared to burn the first 40 minutes of of the shoot while I got rid of my awkwardness.
No, but you weren't awkward. But I think, you know what it feels like and can empathize with people and know that it's not an easy thing.
Yeah, so I think anybody that works with you has to be committed to the process.
Yeah.
Too, that you don't just show up with a couple of outfits and take a bunch of pictures. That, you want to know what the goal is, so that you're working in the best interest of the client, and they have to be committed to the time that it's going to take in order to get those results.
Exactly, and that leads me to my next question. So you talked about the process and everything, and so what was your kind of, if you were to tell somebody about what that experience looked like, what was your favorite, or what would you say about the experience and the collaboration, and what was good for you in that?
Collaboration is a good word, because while you did lead, you were willing to hear my thoughts on it, and the photo shoot flowed really naturally, and new things came up, and you wanted to try different looks and different lighting. I would say again, be patient for someone that wants to work with you. Like, don't just, it's an hour and then something else is going to happen. You've got to set the time aside, so that you don't feel like it's rushed at all. And then and be honest. I would tell you if I didn't like something or if I was uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's very important. And so how are your photos working for you now? Like in terms of I know we did family and business, so you can talk about either or both.
Well, they're both great. And as my wife said, they're very precious. They're keepsakes. They're the only, for the family ones, I can't imagine that we'll ever have that opportunity to have the kids all together like that again. The business ones, I haven't used to the best of my ability. I know I need to actually have a plan for how I'm going to, present them in the various formats that you have provided to me. And but I really like. I think they look great on my website, on my Instagram, on the Facebook, and. Who knows? It's so hard in the business to know whether you did one thing that resulted in business. Just like, if you go to a chamber mixer, you can't expect that a piece of business will come from that.
It's very indirect, and I think that you know, the important thing with photography is that, you know, the photos or the portraits, you know, they're meant to be you and you can't be there in person. So I think if you're being recognized or people are being attracted to you more because they're seeing you, that means it's working.
Yeah. But this is a good reminder
yeah.
that I need to review my strategy and make sure that I'm optimizing things as best as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another tool in your marketing toolkit. So you need to utilize your photos and all your assets.
Yeah,
you know,
all my brochures.
Okay, and then in terms of I don't know, you know me pretty well, but personally, like your experience working with me, how was that? Like just on a personal level?
Oh, it's just like spending an afternoon with a friend. What
you
could be better? Just like this.
Okay, that sounds great. And then, of course, if you were to recommend me, what would you say, or would you work with me again?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, well, you know that we recommend you highly.
Yeah, you do.
And if someone's really looking for those branding shots, you know, if someone wedding photography, I know that's not where your passion lies. But if someone is looking to rebrand, to shift their practice, and you know, take their business to the next level, I would definitely recommend that they work with you.
Thank you so much. I think that just about wraps up our talk for today, and there was a lot of information here with you as somebody who does a lot in the community and for your clients. And but I think everything that we talked about today, I think, is super inspirational, and I think there's a lot of ideas here as well for those of you who, you know, maybe want to do something but don't know what to do. So you know, get out there and look out for your passions and what you want to do and make a difference.